Okay, so I want to talk to you today about the CNCF interactive landscape and our static landscape. And this is a project that I've led over the last year, 2 years for the static landscape and the interactive one for 1 year. So here's one view of it, but if you come here and click on landscape, you get this somewhat crazy view of all of the different projects and products in the cloud native ecosystem. And then I want to talk to you about what we're trying to accomplish here, why we think it's a useful tool. But I'm going to go ahead and kick off a change here so that you can see a little bit of how things work. So if I go to cloud native landscape there, ping, GitHub.com/CNCF/landscape. And this is the open source project that produces that interactive landscape. And so what's pretty neat about it is if I go to landscape.yml, this is the YAML file, and I'll make it bigger, that has all of the information that we're displaying in the other landscape. So if I come down here to service mesh, I can see Istio and Linkerd, and for example, Linkerd, I see the homepage URL, that it is a incubating project in CNCF, the repo, the logo, it's Twitter, and it's Crunchbase. Crunchbase is a database with information on all kinds of different technology companies. So I'm going to go ahead and make a change here. I'm going to click Edit, and of course I have edit privileges on it, but anyone can fork this repo and make an edit and then submit a pull request. And I'm going to look for Dragonfly, which is right here. And I am pleased to announce that just an hour ago, Dragonfly became the newest CNCF-hosted project in our sandbox. So I just need to find the syntax here so I don't screw this up. And it's under container registry, Harbor, yeah. So earlier, like an hour ago, I changed Harbor, which was an incubating project, a sandbox project, to incubating. And so now I just come in and because it's YAML, I've got to get the indentation exactly right. And then instead of incubating, it's sandbox. And now I can come in and say Dragonfly is now the sandbox project. And I'm going to commit directly to the master branch, which I generally recommend against. And when I do this, it's going to kick off a build process to rebuild the interactive landscape. And that's going to take about 10 minutes. If I didn't screw anything up, if there's a missing space or something, then I'm going to get an error. But we'll see that in just a second. And actually, if I go to app.amplify.com, I can just confirm that that has kicked off. So then I can give you a little bit of history on the project, and then we can hopefully at the end see that change. So and it's landscape.cncf. And here under production deploys, it says building. And if I come into the logs, okay, so just a reminder what I'm doing here. Here's the interactive landscape. And when I click here in Dragonfly, it says that this, and I actually made an error, which is it's no longer an Alibaba Cloud project, it's now a CNCF project. And so where it comes here, it says CNCF Platinum member. Instead, it should say CNCF Sandbox Project. So let me just go ahead and make that one other change, which is the challenge of working on somebody else's laptop in front of a crowd, but makes it more respectful. So it's Dragonfly, and there it is. And instead of organization Alibaba Cloud, it should be organization Cloud Native Compute Foundation. I'm just going to paste that in right there. Logo stays the same, Twitter stays the same. And it's fix Dragonfly organization commit. Okay, so the idea for CNCF is that Liz Bryce gave a keynote speech talking about the CNCF trail map. And the trail map, which you can get to right here with a link at the top of the landscape, is our preferred way of thinking about the ecosystem and our recommendation on how organizations should adopt cloud native is to go through the trail map, just loading a little slowly, but lists each of the CNCF projects and shows you the order that you probably want to adopt them. But there are now thousands of companies that are using cloud native technologies. I don't believe that there's a single company that's using all CNCF projects and no other projects. In reality, almost everybody is using a mix of open source projects from CNCF and some open source projects that are not in CNCF and some commercial services. And we think that's a totally reasonable thing to do. And so we built this landscape to help think of the taxonomy of what your options are as you look at each space. And it's in a really fantastic marketing document in some ways because it does highlight the CNCF projects here and encourage their usage. Our goal is that is not that you will always choose the CNCF project in each category, but that you would at least seriously consider it and have some reason on why you would prefer a different project or a commercial product rather than using the CNCF. And let me just check in on that deploy, which not seem to be making any headway, but it's hard to know given all the things that. Is it a Netlify issue? Is it a bandwidth issue? Is it a browser issue? That's kind of hard to figure out. It does say donate. Let's see. Okay, hopefully it'll sort soon. So anyway, we start with this YAML file, and I will say that there's an enormous amount of effort that has gone into creating this. Even just having the correct settings for every logo has been incredibly time consuming. The correct Twitter account, the homepage, the repo, all this other information. But what's neat is that we started it with really just 50 or so products and projects. And over time, it's now become a truly crowdsourced effort where people are using a project or want to have their product featured here, and they submit a pull request, which we can then evaluate. Another piece that's gone on is that the serverless working group came in and said, oh, it would be useful to have a serverless version of the landscape. And so if I click serverless here, I can see that we have a whole nother perspective. Here are hosted platforms and installable platforms. These are typically used on top of Kubernetes, and then frameworks and tools and some security options. But one of the neatest parts of what we've built here is that when you come in, and Priyanka gave a great keynote today from GitLab. So if we click on GitLab, we get this pop-up. And what we can see here is that, first of all, it's a high-resolution logo. We get a summary of it. But then we get the website. It has 21,000 stars. The link to Crunchbase and LinkedIn, the Twitter, and if we weren't blocked, we would see the last 3 tweets, which represent kind of a what's happening recently. The funding and the number of people in the company, and then some useful information about the fact that they are passing their CII best practices. This is another Linux Foundation project, MIT licensed open source software, and they're a silver member of CNCF. And then what's quite fun about it is that we have an update server that runs every night and automatically goes to Crunchbase and fetches all of the newest updates of any new funding that's occurred, and then also goes to GitHub and gets all the newest stars and commits and everything. And so we're able to provide an extremely up-to-date view. And the perspective here was just, I built the tool that I wanted to use. As I'm researching the space and trying to understand it, it's very helpful for me to be able to click through and compare different projects. Now, this is the landscape view, this is the card view. And one of the really powerful things that we can do here is to change the filters. So for example, if we look at just open source projects by age, they're going to load in here, and we can see that the very first project, with the earliest project, is PostgreSQL, where the very first commit was 22 years ago, but the latest commit was this week. And it's just an extraordinary accomplishment to have an open source project with that history. And I will point out that if I click on the this week here, that is a link to GitHub, and it'll show me that latest commit. And then we can see that there have been 31 contributors. Now, if we just go right, we can see that MariaDB and MySQL are 2 of the, because they're forks of one another, are 2 very early projects. Then Kohn is another fork of MySQL, and we can keep going down. And as we come down here, we can see that this project, Gravity, the very first commit was 3 months ago. And so it's a pretty powerful way of sorting and filtering. A few other kind of pre-established groupings that we set up are the landscape categories. So you can come in and see first the public cloud and then the provisioning that match up with the other ones. We're suffering for our bandwidth now. Oh, there it is. Sorry, what's that? This isn't the regular Wi-Fi. This is a special secret Wi-Fi that is still not very fast, so I'm not sure if that's going to be the issue or not. Look at that, and our build started. So what it's been doing in the background is fetching that latest change and then looking for any other changes and building. Now, the whole interactive landscape is a React application, and what's kind of fun about it is that I joke that this is a serverless application because it is entirely static. And so the entire application loads into your browser, and as you then move around to different views, it's not needing to go back to the server to get any new information because it's loaded in a JSON file with all of the information you need. So this is a nice view of offerings from China, and you can see that we're dynamically showing that there's 63 cards here, 36,000 stars, market cap of 855 billion, and funding of 546 million. And then right now, I'm grouping it by capital, but if I instead group it by headquarters locations, I can see the ones in Beijing, in Changsha, Chengdu, Hainan, Haikou, Hangzhou, Jinan, and then here's our ones in Shanghai. We actually just, a few hours ago, added ENC Helium Cloud, which is our newest certified Kubernetes offering. So they're up to 75. And then Huawei and Tencent and Shenzhen, Suzhou and Taipei. And so here's a view of our certified Kubernetes and Kubernetes training partners. And then this is kind of a fun one of projects by the market cap of the company behind it. So Foundation DB comes from Apple, and that's currently a $912 billion market cap. It was over $1 trillion a couple weeks ago. We just had a little stock market crash this week. But then if I scroll down, past all those public companies and down to the private ones, there's a company right here, Drone, that's raised $28,000. And so I love the fact that this system scales from 28K up to $1 trillion and lets you see the perspective. Okay, so now it's almost done building. In fact, I can show you along the way. So if I now search for Dragonfly, it says Cloud Native Sandbox Project, but it still incorrectly says Alibaba Cloud because I didn't update it the first time. And so this is it rebuilt since we started, and now it's almost done rebuilding again. And then when I refresh, instead of saying Alibaba Cloud, it should say CNCF, and I'll also be able to see it as a sandbox project. Now we've had a little bit of challenge here where the technical oversight committee has asked us to really minimize the marketing of our sandbox project. So we prominently highlight the graduated and we prominently highlight the incubating, and then we show CNCF projects and non-CNCF member projects. We have a little bit of an Easter egg here that if you come in and you say, oh, show me all of these, including the sandbox ones, then we will separately classify sandbox. And you can see the Dragonfly is now appearing here. And so we're up to, I had said 9 sandbox projects before. We're actually now up to 11. And I said 16 incubating. We're now up to 17 because Harvard has moved from sandbox to incubating. And now if I come to, one other interesting piece of this is that as the project builds, it also creates screenshots of the interactive landscape. And so if I come here and click the ping for it, I can see that this is happening on the build step right here, where it visits these specific URLs and then saves them as static images.
It's clean in here.
Right there. And these, the pings tend to be pretty useful for presentations and such. We also create a PDF, which is suitable for high resolution. So I think I am just about out of time there. Could I, just see if we're finished, almost finished deploying. Answer maybe one or two questions before I let you go. The final piece I just want to remind you of that it is right here on the top, l.cncf.io, and this works on your mobile phone. So I encourage you to play with it and to try your organization on it. And then if you see errors or missing data or anything, please open up a pull request, and we try to be very responsive on getting those addressed. But the hope is that this is a useful tool for understanding the ecosystem and keeping track of it. And that, so now site is live. So if I come back here again, and I go landscape, and then I click Dragonfly. So right now it still says Alibaba Cloud, but if I click refresh, Now it says Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So pretty neat. Oh, and the Twitter's working on this as well. So you can see the 3 recent announcements, and I suspect if I can go in here to Harbor and look, we see super excited to see Harbor move from sandbox. And so it's a nice way of keeping track of that. So I'll stop there. Thank you all very much for your time, and thanks again for the laugh out. I really appreciate it.